I'm going to call the meeting to order. I don't know why I need a gavel. And it's take attendance.
Ms. Kuhn? Mr. McKellen?
Present.
Mr. Rambacker?
Here.
Mr. Seeberger?
Here.
Mr. Elder? Miss Elder? I'm
Here.
so sorry.
Happens all the time, don't worry about it.
Mr. Crawford?
Here. Everyone had a chance to look at the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes proposed? Tom, you got anything?
Nope, there's no changes from here.
Okay, now, I'm going to read the statement of duties. The Plain Township Zoning Commission's duties include the following. Number one, make recommendations to the Board of Trustees with regard to amendments to the zoning text and map. Number two, the Zoning Commission does not have to prove the applicant why his or her land should not be rezoned. Rather, the applicant must prove his or her case for the proposed change. Any amendment adopted by the trustees becomes effective 30 days from the date of such adoption, unless a petition for referendum is filed within that 30-day period. Specific requirements for a petition of referendum are set forth in Chapter 519 of the Ohio Revised Code and Chapter 3501.38 of the Ohio Revised Code. Procedure for conducting meetings. All hearings are recorded to maintain a permanent record. All testimony is given under oath. All speakers must sign in and identify themselves by giving their names and addresses before speaking each time. Speakers are only to address the board and must provide factual evidence. Conversation between the speaker and the audience will not be tolerated. The applicant speaks first and presents his or her request. Next, anyone in favor may speak, then anyone in opposition may speak. If you've got a large group, please appoint a spokesperson. The board members will then vote and reach a verdict, and their decision will be announced. Should an additional hearing be necessary due to continuance or postponement, the amendment will be rescheduled for the next available meeting date, and no additional notice will be provided. Sir, did you sign in when you came?
I did, at the front.
Would you please come to the podium, please?
Would you like for me to sign in on this one?
Yes, sir. What's your name?
Tyler Greenwell. Need to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
Let's do
We can do that. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Anybody want a second? Okay, thank you. They'll take a roll call then on the motion for approval of minutes.
Ms. Kuhn?
Yes.
It's only my second.
She's like, oh, do I say aye? Do I
Mr.
say yay? Or do I say?
Rambacker?
Yes.
Mr. Seeberger?
I have to abstain.
That's okay.
Ms. Elder?
Yes.
And Mr. Crawford?
Aye. We have
Mr.
some,
McKellen?
Abstain.
we have some unfinished business before us, which is the only piece of business before us as far as I know. So sir, again, would you state your name for the record?
Tyler Greenwell.
And would you, put your right hand up, do you hereby swear or affirm that the information you're about to present is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Okay, why don't you tell us about your application?
Well, we are, like I said, we own the property on the corner, 3709, and we own the field next door. We are looking to put all that field that we own on the same zoning. So we want it to be commercial B2. The rest of it's agriculture. We're wanting to zone it all correctly, so within the future, if we have to expand, we can use that property to our need.
Now, who is the owner of the property?
Daryl Snyder owns SCI Property Management. He was the gentleman that was here last time.
Okay, well, there was some confusion. He thought it might be a trust, and he held it under the name, the record title holder is SCI Property Management Limited?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Anybody, any questions?
I have a question, not for him though. You want to ask him questions first?
You can ask Tom
Can I ask Tom a
questions.
question?
Sure.
So because I've never been in this experience before since I started, if a company owns a property, and they had to fill out this affidavit of ownership to delegate someone else, who would the owner be?
Well, that's what I was asking. Who's the owner? And the owner is the same person has been, the same entity that's been identified as the applicant.
Right, so who would sign off? One of the members of one of the managers of the LLC or the corporation?
One of the officers, yes.
Okay,
He's listed here as the VP of Operations.
so he, by definition, is an owner.
He represents, well, a corporation or LLC has no physical existence, so it's the actual authorized owner or authorized individuals who, as officers or whatever. In this case, we have a vice president of operations. And this was, he was the original applicant, but was suffering from COVID, I believe, 2 months ago.
That is correct.
So if he was not the, if this was like somebody who is proposing to buy the property and he wants to get zone change first, then that would, the applicant would be one section and then the ownership would have to be.
So this page is unnecessary, is what you're telling me.
No, that's just, it's additional information to prove his place to be here, which I understand under the circumstances.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand it too. I just
Anyone disagree?
channeling, what's his name, it was here last time apparently. I just wanted to clarify who is, if the owner is a company, who is the owner? What person becomes owner?
Well, it's the authorized representative is identified as Mr. Greenwell.
Is the owner?
The owner is still the LLC of the
Right,
company.
right.
Has no physical existence, so
Right,
that's why
right.
you have to, that's why we do it this way.
I know, I have an LLC, but there are only 2 people named as managers
Right.
under the state of Ohio. So if I had other officers, would they still be owners?
You could still authorize them, that's what that piece.
Right, but wouldn't I have to notarize that?
This is, no, because the owner is up here.
Okay. I'm good.
I think the question is, who is the authorized agent
And
of
that's
the
what
LLC for this purpose?
And that's the
I understand that. I understand all that. I just didn't know if it had to be notarized.
piece.
Again,
It's right after that.
but
Is the-
I thought this.
Or is it the, oh,
Well, it would be better if it was signed, but it's on a letterhead.
Okay.
That's, you've already had them jump through a few.
I know,
hoops
I
here.
understand. I'm just,
Well, I was one of the people holding the hoops last time, so don't take.
but when I went through this, I'm like, I thought the whole point was that this had to be on here. I thought that's why we made him come back. We wanted to hear from him because it's his name on here.
There were 2 problems with when he was here before. Number one, there was no clear answer as who owned the land.
Right, was it a trust?
Because he kept saying, I own it. What do you mean you own it? Well, I have a trust.
Right, right. But it's
Okay, so the
owned
trust
by,
owns the land? Well, yeah, well then who's this management company? I think
Right.
he couldn't answer the question because he sort of was pitch-hitting.
right. But on the deed of ownership, it's this company, not a trust.
That's what we're accepting as,
SCI Property Management, yes.
that's,
Owns the deed,
We
it's
have
the
a-
name on the deed.
Yes.
And he didn't know that. He kept thinking that the trust was the name on the deed. So
Right.
that's resolved. But the other issue was this affidavit of authorizing Tyler here to sign
but
this.
Tyler wasn't here.
I
He
understand
was
that.
the one listed as the representative
Right.
on that, so that's why.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
Let me just, two things. One, I don't see anybody here seeking to oppose this application or request, and I don't think it's an unreasonable request. Under our prior chairperson, my belief is that they would have been sent packing again and told to come back a third time. I'm willing to proceed ahead, even though, in my view, the application is still deficient. And I'm willing to proceed ahead if the other members of the board are willing to do so also.
And I'm willing to stop channeling him and just get this done. But,
Well, our former chairman is technically, he technically would have been 110% correct.
well, I'm not, that this needs to be notarized. Yes?
Absolutely, there has, I mean, we
Okay.
had an application,
Oh, sorry.
with all respect, and by a person who I don't see any designation as being the agent authorized to speak for the owner. But,
Okay, just
I
wanted to
mean,
make-
clearly, I
Right.
should say clearly, I mean,
I'm
he's here in that capacity, and I'm willing to move forward anyway.
And it's on letterhead, so we can, but I'm not crazy, is what you're telling me.
No, you're not crazy.
Okay.
I'm not crazy. I don't want to make somebody come back a third time.
I agree. I just thought I lost my mind.
No, the problem is, it's some of the same problems that were in existence last time seem to come over, even though we postponed it, but we're not wanting to hold your hand over fire or anything.
But I think part of the problem is that the gentleman who's here before communicated this information, and there was so much information given to him that it was very hard for even us to kind of figure out what was required. But I'm with you from the last meeting. We didn't, why aren't we letting people be unreasonable and do this? So whatever we need to do, I'm okay with that. I mean, I think we've had this conversation. Everybody seemed to be okay with the concept. It was just the paperwork. So, as far as I'm concerned, we have two choices. One is to accept the letterhead, and the other one is to do exactly what we did last meeting and say, just get this notarized for us. But let's not make it come back, okay? Isn't that, I mean,
Well, that's,
Well,
here's the motion to approve is, you haven't really, I don't know if we're under a motion or not.
We are not yet under a motion. Here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that we go ahead and make the recommendation one way or another and instruct the applicant to come to the trustees meeting with proof of capacity and agency. So at that point, when the trustees vote, they will know to a certainty whether they're voting on an application submitted by somebody with capacity and who is a lawful agent. So that's how I would be willing to proceed.
that's what I,
Shall I accept that as a motion?
We have to put it off the table first.
Did we table it, or did we just,
Yeah, the minutes reflect.
well, it's old business, okay.
So I'm going to move that we untable application 578-21.
that was 579.
I'm sorry, you're right.
57921.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay,
Now I move to approve the approval of the application 579-21.
with the caveat that he bring evidence of his authorization as previously laid out by Terry.
Correct.
Second.
Okay, we have first, and we have a motion that's been seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a question for you. Do you understand what's going on here? I don't-
Yes.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure you're like, these people, oh, good. Yeah, no, I think we have precedent for this from the last meeting, that we can approve it based on a contingency, and then if the contingency's met, the approval is effective.
And no one is here to oppose it, so that's definitely
For 2 meetings in a row, so.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, again, I think it makes sense, I just,
Tyler, on that notary page,
Uh-huh.
you need to fill out the bottom as well.
Okay.
and
It
have
it aauthorises someone to represent,
Okay,
well, much like the letter, but this is notarized.
sure.
Well, the letter's not even signed, so
No.
Right.
we're not gonna worry about
Which I
that.
can do that as well.
Well,
if you do this, you don't need to do that.
right, if you have that bottom part filled out,
And just for your record, you said you plan on making the lot, putting the lots together.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're wanting to combine the plot that we are currently
You
on.
won't need to worry about, well, you're gonna have to, if you have to do this again for another board, make sure all that is filled out.
Okay,
It'll save a lot of problems.
And then the owner here on this that signs to allow you to do this should be probably the guy that
Daryl.
came before us.
the president. or
The president would be the best,
Okay,
because it says owners printed name and title. If you got the president of the company, then are not gonna be any questions.
Or managing member.
Or whatever it is.
It could be manager, but, right, yeah. Yeah, if it's an LLC, if it's an LLC, yeah, if limited partnership might not have a president.
I know I'm not supposed, the new rules still off the first meeting, but,
All these new people.
I know, the owner says SCI Property Management LTD, the letter is from SCI Property Management Limited Partnership. I just wanna make sure the correct owners list, that he knows to list the correct owner on the
Good
form.
point, I missed that.
You're gonna fit in nicely.
Just making sure.
I don't think it's unreasonable to have the paperwork. You don't want to, you know.
Well, look, there's a lot of effort goes into this. That's a relatively simple form we asked them to complete.
But again, we had somebody else communicating information to this gentleman, and sometimes, communication gets confusing. So, I move for a vote. I call the
There's a
question.
motion on the table by Mr. Rimbacher.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah, I seconded.
Oh, okay.
Don't need to call the question for a vote.
Okay, I'm just gonna informally ask if anybody has any further questions or discussion. Any further questions for the applicant's representative?
Just one more thing. Do you know a notary? We
Yes.
just suggest one for you.
no, we have one.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I'm gonna call this motion to a roll call. Well, I'll just do it this way. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
So the next step is the board of trustees.
I would just note for the record that there was, that the same recommendation from the Regional Planning Commission and the same memo from the Wayne Township Fire Department were part of the application.
Yeah, make sure the names are consistent and accurate of the name of the corporation.
Okay,
Is it a limited partnership, is it an LLC? Just make sure that's consistent and accurate. I don't know if there is
You can call it LTD, it is still an
a
LLC.
LLC, right, okay. That's really interesting.
Are we all set then?
I believe, now, is there any other further business to come before the board?
There's officers.
Huh?
I thought we just did the officers.
We did.
We're gonna do it
We
again.
have to do it in January. You got a late meeting last time. late
Oh, that's
meeting.
right, we didn't have a meeting, we only had a
Tyler,
meeting
we're
last
all
year.
Oh,
set. If you
all right.
want to go ahead and do that,
Okay.
that's fine.
all right, well, thank
I
you.
thought that was a typo left over.
Give the office a call tomorrow if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well,
Glad
thank
you're
you.
feeling better.
Yeah. It was rough, but all good now.
You look good now, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna nominate Ian Crawford as chairman and Angela Holder as vice chairman as a ticket.
Any further nominations on the panel? You got the wave there.
I do.
Seeing none or hearing none,
Let me second the motion. I'll second Mr. Seaver's motion.
okay. With the second, is there any further discussion or any other nominations on outstanding? Seeing none, I would ask for a roll call vote, Tom, on this particular piece of business, this joint motion.
Ms. Kuhn,
Yes?
Mr. McCallum,
Yes.
Mr. Randbacker,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Ms. Elder,
Yes.
and Mr. Crawford.
I feel like it was sustained as, I would just say yes.
You're gonna vote no just to be mature.
Just gonna, recuse myself.
I love this.
Okay, motion passes. Seeing no further business,
Unfortunately, you need a secretary.
we have?
Yep.
Oh, well then as chair, I'm not gonna nominate anybody. Does someone want to nominate a secretary? Terry and John have both done great jobs.
And if anybody's dying to be the secretary, that often falls upon a new person.
Oh.
I
secretly called not in over here.
It's up to you.
It's all filled out, you just fill it.
Okay, yeah. What, is that starting for this meeting? Should I start?
Next.
Okay.
I
Okay.
nominate Alex McCallion.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Yes.
Yes, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes. For secretary, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Further business.
All those in favor signify by getting up out of your chairs and leaving.
That's what I would say on Zoom. All those in favor, click leave the meeting.